Hey, you guys, I hope that you are well, my friends. Well, I am coming on to share with you. I was like, wow. I'm always minding my own business, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so good. So when I heard it's time for Esthers to emerge from unseen to queen, I had to get excited for us, right? Too many of us have been in that place. We have been hidden. We have been unseen. We have been filling up with the Lord, but we have been unseen by those around us and even on a larger platform or stage. And so it is time. The Lord is really wanting us to partner with Him and to just get ourselves prepared to be more visible. And I found it really interesting that he said it's time for Esthers to emerge, like Esther, why Esther, whatever. But then when I started looking at the book of Esther, it kind of became obvious, Esther was an orphan, and the Bible makes it very clear that her uncle Mordecai was the one to raise her. And so, Esther, obviously being a woman, and God calling women to arise, even the ones who are unseen, even the ones who are supposed to be the ones that should not be chosen, supposed to be the ones that would not be, selected, supposed to be the ones that should stay in the background. All of those things that Esther represents. And women traditionally have been the support of men in ministry. That's no surprise to anyone. But he is saying, no, it is time for you to arise. It is time for you to take your platform. It is time for you to step into the destiny that God has for you. And so even as I'm saying this to you, I know that he's speaking this to me. It's so funny because I've probably gotten about 3 prophetic words just off the cuff from people, from being in church or meetings or whatever, and they have all consistently said something along this line, something along this vein. And I just had to chuckle every single time because the Lord had already spoken to me that it is time for Esthers to emerge. And so what I want to do is unpack this for us a little bit, because there are some nuggets that we need to be aware of as we are moving forward in this emerging season. And so one of the things with Esther, if you'll note, in the book of Esther, was that Esther had to go to the palace with, I think it was either hundreds or thousands of other women who were going to be considered to be the queen. And I know I've been talking about this because the Lord has been showing me and telling me and reminding me that we need to be where he has called us to be. And so even though you might be saying to yourself, well, God can bless me where I'm at, well, God knows where I'm at. Listen, even though Esther had to be selected, she had to be where the king could see her. And so if you know that you are still not in the place, whether or not it's the business, the employment, the location, as far as the physical location where you need to be, if you're supposed to be doing something, owning a business or whatever you're supposed to be doing, listen, I don't know how else to say this. But get there and start doing it. Be where you need to be so that you can be seen. Because you can be doing the exact same thing and be completely out of place and not be seen. Esther had to go to the palace in order to be seen. The king did not go to her. She had to go to him. And then the Lord unveiled her to the king, for lack of a better term. He made sure that the king, saw Esther. So be where you need to be in order for you to be seen. If you're supposed to have a website, if you're supposed to have your own YouTube channel, if you're supposed to be doing Facebook Live, if you're supposed to be doing whatever you're supposed to be doing right now, that you know that the Lord has called you to, and you're not doing it, get to it. So that is the first thing The second thing was that, I love how Esther, it's very clear that Esther won the favor of Haggai, who was the eunuch who was in charge of taking care of all of the women who had come. All of them came, but Esther was the one who won the favor of Haggai. The first thing that came to mind was that Jesus had to grow in favor with the Lord and also with men. And so Esther used wisdom, and she made sure that she positioned herself to grow in favor with those who had some sort of clout, with those who had authority. So the second thing that we can learn about Esther is that when she came to the palace, she won the favor of Haggai, who was the eunuch over all of the young women who had come there to be, a potential for the queen position. But she was the one who won the favor of Haggai. She had the wisdom and she had the discernment to understand that, I need to try to gain some favor here. And when I thought about this, I immediately thought about the scripture that says that Jesus had to grow in favor with not only God, but man. And so she knew, that's wisdom to understand, listen, there are certain people who are going to be influential. There are certain people who are going to have authority where I'm going. I need to be discerning enough to try to earn the favor of those people. And that is exactly what Esther did. She wasn't just going to a new place, but she understood that there were people who were going to be pivotal for her success in that new place. And even though she hadn't been selected as the queen yet, she understood the weight and she understood the impact of, having those favorable connections and relationships. So as an emerging Esther, are you willing to not just go where you need to be seen, but are you willing to identify and be discerning and wise enough to win the favor of those who are in the position to extend favor to you? Are you making sure that you are aware of who is around you? Are you making sure that you are acting favorably? The only reason Esther won favor was because she acted favorably. She didn't have attitude. She wasn't demanding. She listened to what he said. She was like, okay, let me go ahead and follow whatever protocol you already know is the right protocol. And so, she didn't have a big head. She didn't act like a diva. Right? She was humble. She had to be humble in order to win the favor of Haggai. And so that is exactly what she did. The third thing about Esther was that she was willing to undergo the process. And if you read about the process that all of the women went through, they had to go through a cleansing. They had to go through myrrh and hyssop and all these other things so their skin could be cleansed, so that their bodies could be cleansed, so that they would be presentable to the king. And oftentimes this cleansing process took about a year. And so it was a painful process. It wasn't like they were going to the spa every day. No, their skin had to be impeccable. Oftentimes they would rub these herbal things all over their bodies, all over their faces, their skin, their hair. What type of process are you willing to go through? A lot of us who have been hidden for a period of time or whatnot, we've already been through a lot of pain. If you're like me, you've already been through it a couple of times. You've already experienced a lot of painful situations more than a few times. But you know what? She was willing, she was submitted, she was yielding to go through whatever the process was for her to be selected as queen. And so what are you willing to go through in order for you to come into the destiny that God has for you? We know that Esther's destiny was to become queen so that she could save an entire people group. She didn't just step into that position. She had to go through a process. And so what is in you? Are you dealing with pride? Are you dealing with offense? Are you dealing with selfishness? Are you dealing with a controlling spirit? Are you dealing with, not being yielded enough to the Lord? Whatever needs to be cleansed out of you, do it. Submit yourself, yield yourself to the process so that you can come into the fullness of destiny that God has for you. There's a process of cleansing that you have to go through. And so, is your heart where it needs to be in order for you to get where you need to go? That's what you need to ask yourself. That's what we all need to ask ourselves. And Esther was willing to go through the process. That is the third thing about Esther's life that we really want to take note of. Be willing to go through the painful process to be purged like Esther did. And the fourth thing that I wanted to share about Esther and her life was that she was willing to take risk. Are we willing to take the risk that needs to be taken in order for us to make the impact that needs to be made? Esther was willing to do that. She was willing to actually put her life on the line for other people. Who are you willing to put your life on the line for? Who are you willing to sacrifice for? Who are you willing to pour into? Who are you willing to be a blessing to? Who? The person who cannot come to you and pay you back. Who is that person? What is that group of people? You need to know your who. And so Esther was willing to take that risk in order to save these people. And you have to identify as well, who are you willing to take the ultimate risk for? Who are you willing to invest in? Who is that? And so as we consider all of these nuggets from Esther's life, we need to make sure that we are prepared to go into everything God has for us. And so you guys, if you like this video, please subscribe to this channel. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. I would love to hear your feedback regarding this. Are you an Esther? Are you going to be willing to do those 4 things? Let me know below. And if you have any comments, I would love to see them. And I will see you guys on the next video. Be blessed. Bye.